jumping from 3 to 4, I knew that I had to go in and straighten that out. It's like, people aren't really happy with this. I need to make another game. I need to kind of ground this again, not necessarily in reality, but I need to ground it in kind of storytelling again, and really lay this down with what's going on.
This was years after MatPat's video. He wouldn't have said this if the biggest theory channel on YouTube had covered the correct theory. Unless you're one of those people who insists that Scott keeps changing the lore just so we are always wrong, because he's an asshole. In which case, don't worry, I'll address your concerns soon enough. Not only this, but Scott also apparently commented on a now deleted Reddit post about how Dream Theory should die, saying, "I know, right? Who came up with this anyway?" Listen, I know the visual isn't great, we just gotta trust that the FNAF Theory wiki is telling the truth and that this post was about Dream Theory. He also made fun of Dream Theory while making Ultimate Custom Night, when he gave joke descriptions to Foxy, Phone Guy, and Nightmare Freddy on April 1st, each one making fun of a popular theory that was always wrong. Foxy was making fun of Good Guy Foxy, Phone Guy was making fun of Purple Phone Guy, and Nightmare Freddy was making fun of Dream Theory. Then there's the movie, where Mike had a book called Dream Theory, reframing the term as something entirely different. We will get back to the movie. And if Scott himself disowning the theory still hasn't convinced you, 5! The silver bullet that kills this theory entirely: time. So you know how I said that any theory that existed before Scott's post is automatically disqualified because he said that by then no one has solved it? Well, I just so happen to know how to search Google for results between specific date ranges. So all we gotta do is search FNAF Dream Theory, specify the date range between July 23rd, 2015 and August 24th, 2015, hit send, and wow, would you look at that! FNAF 4 is a coma-induced nightmare. So this theory does just definitively predate Scott's post and is therefore dead as hell. MatPat even mentions that there were earlier versions of the theory in his video. He brought up how people reacted negatively to those earlier iterations and used that as evidence that it was correct, relating it to when Scott asked, would the fans accept it that way, and just ignoring how in the same post he said that all prior FNAF 4 theories were wrong. I hope this is a sufficient amount of evidence for why I think Dream Theory just might be a little bit wrong. It's filled with holes, much in the same way that the ocean is filled with microplastics. Now that we've put that to rest, let's get back to figuring out what is actually going on in FNAF 4 and how it ties into the box. Scott said that the Easter eggs aren't random, which is a pretty blatant hint as far as they go, so let's make like a bunch of kids on Easter and look for some eggs. I could go for a Kinder Egg. Probably the most famous Easter egg in FNAF 4 is found on the TV. During the Night 3 minigame, once you get to Dave's house, you can turn on the TV to see it displaying the title Fredbear and Friends, along with the copyright date of 1983, followed by images of Fredbear alongside the usual quartet of animatronics. Many people take this to mean that this minigame takes place in 1983, and I agree. It'd be kind of a dick move to show us a date on screen if it's not accurate in the least bit. Somewhat unrelated to this theory, but I want to bring it up anyway, this also seems to support my hypothesis that the restaurant we see during these minigames isn't Fredbear's Family Diner, but rather a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location that still happens to use the Fredbear characters. That's not like super relevant, but I just wanted to mention that I don't think this is Fredbear's for a number of reasons. Next, Easter egg. During the Night 2 minigame, backtracking while Dave is running away from the employee in a Springlock suit, you can see Purple Guy in a back room putting a Spring Bunny suit on someone. This has a host of implications, but the main one is that this means the minigames take place while he's still working at Fazbear Entertainment. This would place the events of the FNAF 4 minigames before the missing children incident, since we know he gets arrested for that. I'm tempted to say that Charlie is already dead though, since I've been beating my head against a brick wall trying to figure out what order these 3 children die. Wild sentence, by the way. And if Charlie is already dead, that'd provide an explanation for the second voice that speaks from the Fredbear plush in the lighter yellow text, and why Dave is so terrified of the place, but that's not super important for this theory right now. The minigames aren't the only place where Scott hid Easter eggs though, so on to the night segments. During the nights, there is a small chance for some objects to show up on the bedside table. They are an IV drip, a bottle of pills, and a vase of flowers. Hospital imagery. How curious. Anyway, there are also some audio Easter eggs. There's a rare chance to hear a creepy breath, a creepy laugh, and most famously, a dog barking.
Do I have a dog? And And why is dog no come protect me?
And then there's the most important one. On rare occasions, you can hear a radio playing in the distance.
Fucking ADHD style comedy, baby.
The audio for it just sounds like noise, but if you reverse it, it turns out to be a pitched down version of the Night 1 phone call from FNAF 1. Many people write this off as Scott just reusing audio with no meaning, but remember, the Easter eggs aren't random. He deliberately hid the Night 1 phone call in this game. The call that mentions the bite of 87.
It was the bite of 87. Yeah. It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe, you know?
Scott wouldn't leave us hanging though, as he decided to crash the GT Live FNAF Theory stream and give us more clues that would infuriate and confuse fans forever. The first of his magical hints was, in the FNAF 4 minigame, why would the tiny toy Chica be missing its beak?
Oh, I did have a
I think
guard.
you could use
Fuck.
that phrase to trigger a panic attack in FNAF fans. During the aforementioned Night 3 minigame, you can go to an optional area where a girl is playing with her toys of the Freddy's characters. One of them is Chica, and she happens to be missing her beak, which is lying next to her on the floor. This seems to be a very direct reference to Toy Chica from FNAF 2. Smash, next question. She iconically loses her beak when she leaves the stage, and there really wasn't an explanation for why that happens. I'll be real with you, I kinda don't know what the deal is with the Toy Chica figurine's beak. I guess it's telling us that the FNAF 2 designs already exist as of 1983, and also the mangle in the bedroom adds to that. I honestly don't get this clue at all. His second hint was, what is seen in the shadows is easily misunderstood in the mind of a child. Which feels like the most substantial clue, but also is super vague. It could be referring to the shadows of the animatronics seen in the minigames, which are purple, acting as a potential explanation for the Shadow animatronics, Shadow Freddy, and RWQFSFASXC, both of whom have been portrayed as purple. I was always off-put by the idea that they're meant to be the shadows of the Springlock animatronics, or like Springlock failure victims, because looks exactly like Toy Bonnie, but then there is this Toy Bonnie looking Spring Bonnie head in the parts and service room, which may have even served as an inspiration for Glitch Trap's design, so maybe? Alternatively, what other context could there be for this line? We know Dave has a reason to be scared. His plush even says, remember what you saw. You know what happens if he catches you. What if he saw what William did? What if he saw Charlie die? Why does no one believe him? What would William say to dismiss his child's fears to other people? What is seen in the shadows is easily misunderstood in the mind of a child. The final clue we received on that fateful day was 4 games, 1 story. I think most people read this and went, yeah, no shit. It is good to have confirmation that the games do in fact have an overarching narrative through line between them. It'd be extremely troubling if they didn't. That would be all if not for a potential 4th comment. MatPat noticed a message from Scott in chat asking the question,
Here we go. Scott Cawthon, have you thought of who the security guard is? And it's interesting because before all the technical difficulties, one of the things that I wanted to toss out to everyone, because it is one of the final biggest questions of the franchise, the security guards. What role do they play in all of this?
Bringing up the night guard during a FNAF 4 discussion when the game seemingly doesn't feature a night guard. How suspicious. Very suspicious, in fact, because while I was looking for that clip, I also saw this.
I just want to say, before I say anything, if you're getting anything from the comment section from someone called Scott, Scott's just emailed me saying, let them know that I am not commenting in the stream. Anyone who comments on the stream is fake.
Okay, there you go. So Scott, so the the little grain of salt that we took earlier.
It was really, yeah.
It was more of a nice tablespoon of salt.
So it turns out that may have been a Scott imposter rather than the man himself. Well, that lead's dead. Oh well, this theory works without it, so whatever. Now then, we have a full conspiracy board's worth of clues dissected and laid out. It's time to start looking for connections and drawing conclusions. There is an answer in here, and it's deceptively easy to find. So here comes my big reveal. The single most important clue. The thing everyone overlooked. The clue that solves FNAF 4. Here it comes. The phone call. That's right. The phone call. The reversed phone call playing in the distance. This is the clue that solves FNAF 4. Scott could have chosen any of the phone calls to play in the background if it was just supposed to be a background noise, but he didn't. He chose the Night 1 phone call from FNAF 1. The call talking about the bite of 87. So answer me this. If we're playing as Dave, who we know for certain dies in 1983, how are we hearing a phone call talking about an event that took place 4 years later? We can't be. It's impossible for Dave to hear this phone call. We aren't playing as Dave. We're playing as the one person who we know for certain has heard this phone call. I've laid out all the pieces for you. Now all that's left is to put the pieces together and open the box once and for all. What is
Dude, I
inside
fucking hate this
the
hand.
box? The Foxy mask. Because we're playing as the brother. We're playing as Mike. This is my theory for what is inside the box, what was always supposed to be inside the box all along. The Foxy mask that is synonymous with Dave's older brother, the object that represents him. All the clues point to the fact that we cannot be playing as Dave. He's already dead. We hear him flatline during the Night 6 cutscene. FNAF 4 is about Mike enduring nightmares about what he did to his brother. That's why the end of night jingle is different. Because unlike the other 3 games where the jingle represents a shift being complete, in FNAF 4, the alarm is just that, an alarm, to wake Mike up in the morning. Why is he eye level with the doorknobs? Because he's dreaming about Dave. His nightmares might be from Dave's point of view. The nightmares act very similar to their FNAF 1 counterparts because Mike has already worked there, hence the phone call repeating in his dream. But the nightmares don't just represent the animatronics he saw at Freddy's. They're Mike and his friends. The masks match up, and Foxy even makes the same noise in the closet that Mike makes during the minigames when jumping out at Dave. That's why no FNAF 2 animatronics are present, despite Mike working there too under the alias Fritz Smith. Fredbear is here for obvious reasons, covered in mouth imagery, because Mike shoved Dave's head into his mouth and gave him DIY brain surgery. That's why we see those Easter eggs by the bed. The IV, a memory of Dave's death at the hospital. The pills, reality leaking in. Mike puts himself to sleep with pills to try and uncover his own sins. Most interesting is the vase. At first I thought it was just to reinforce the hospital imagery, but then I had a thought, hey, don't flowers have, like, meanings? The vase specifically features tulips. Pink and white tulips. And only pink and white tulips. So I looked up if those have specific meanings. According to bloomandwild.com, pink tulips are known for meaning affection, caring, good wishes, and love, although not as deep or passionate love as red tulips represent. Pink tulips are great to send to friends and family members to show them you care. So pink tulips represent family. Cool. What about white tulips? White tulips have a meaning of forgiveness, respect, purity, and honor. So if you need to apologize to someone, tulips are ideal. So family and forgiveness. We literally have "I'm sorry, brother" spelled out in flowers. I lost my shit at the next bit. Apparently, according to superstition, if you dream about white tulips, it can mean you're about to embark on a new journey and a fresh start in life. They even have a specific meaning if they show up in your dreams. Remember Scott's infamous one retcon post? You know, this one, where he said that he uses new releases to clarify his intentions when people misinterpret something in the last game. The current misconception he mentions was Mic Trap, by the way. That was the misconception from Sister Location that he planned to clear up in the then upcoming Pizzeria Simulator. He even says here that Sister Location exists to clarify something from 4. What's the first thing you see when you start Sister Location?
Please enter your name as seen above the keypad. This cannot be changed later, so please be careful.
Yeah, that's pretty blatant. Even supplemental material supports this conclusion. Remember the survival logbook, where they make sure you know that Mike writes in red pen on page 1? That's why he drew Nightmare Fredbear in response to the question about recent dreams, because he's seen the nightmares. They're from inside his head. You know how Matthew Lillard said that the point of the movies is to fill in the gaps of the lore?
And then do you want to explore William Afton's relationship with his daughter more in the future?
For me, the only thing I want to explore are the things that make sense for the fan base, for Scott, for the storytelling. I mean, frankly, our job in that movie is to deliver lore, right? So much of the game is like fans have for so long filled in the blanks. And our job is to fill in where we can and what Scott and Emma thinks appropriate. So for me, the only thing I care about is that we're doing something that the fans want, that they'll be excited to see.
Well, would you look at that? A movie about a guy named Mike taking sleeping pills so he can figure out what happened to his dead younger brother. I wonder what that could be hinting at. Fuck, even the second movie supports this. Mindless spoilers for the second movie. Skip to this timestamp if you haven't seen it yet. A plot point in the second film is Vanessa just being absolutely haunted by her dead dad's memory, and Mike encourages her to confront her past in her sleep like he did so she can move on. And to do so, she pulls out a box from her closet. At this point I was internally screaming at the screening I went to, and you want to know what she pulls out of the box? Objects from her childhood, like Garrett's toy plane. A child of William Afton keeping objects that remind them of their childhood in a box that they hide away. Wow, that's inconspicuous. All signs point towards the Foxy mask. At this point, I genuinely cannot see it being anything else. This reveal checks all the boxes from the criteria I laid out from Scott's post. 1. Did we arrive at the conclusion using methods we've been using since the first game? Yes, you just had to reverse some audio, something we've been doing since the 5th night of FNAF 1. Remember the autobiography of a Yogi audio? It gave people such severe reverse audio brain rot that some people genuinely believed that London Bridges falling down backwards was saying Mike kill all. Scott had every reason to believe people would figure out the meaning of some reversed audio. 2. Did anyone propose this theory before Scott's post? Not that I could find. I saw a couple of people coming to conclusions such as we play as the brother and the brother is Mike, but none that put 2 and 2 together and guessed the Foxy mask being in the box. Look at any Let's Play, everyone thinks they're playing as Dave. Look at any fan animation or parody, they all use Dave as the main character. Any fan song, it's either from the perspective of Dave fending off the animatronics coming to kill Dave, or both. The common fandom consensus is still that you're playing as Dave throughout all of 4. 3. Does this reveal change the story of 4? Yes, it was never about Dave. It was about Mike. Dave's story only exists to set up Mike's character motivations. It was always his story. 4. Were the Easter eggs necessary to figuring it out? Yes, the Easter eggs show us that the minigames and the nights cannot take place at the same time, since the minigames take place earlier and the character we play as during the minigames dies in the end. The nights have to be from someone else's perspective. 5. Is it simple enough to be solvable? Yes, it's a single object with an immediately understandable meaning. If you see the Foxy mask in the box, you immediately know what it means because of who that mask belongs to. 6. Is it controversial? Yes, revealing you were playing as Mike the whole time would have been controversial. He was a bully and he killed his brother. 7. Is it painful? Yes. Mike lives in shame and grief at what he did. We hear him apologize to his comatose brother during the Night 6 cutscene. It's what drives him to pursue his father and try to undo all the suffering associated with Freddy's. The Foxy mask is locked away in the box because Mike cannot bear to face what he did. Not yet, anyway. It has to be the Foxy mask. That's why Scott said 4 games, 1 story. Because they are. They're Mike's story. It's himself in the box symbolically. It's what he did. The part of him he can't bring himself to confront. That's what was in the box the whole time. It's me. It's always been me. Damn, if only there was a hint somewhere that we were supposed to pay attention to Foxy's head. Inconspicuously headless Foxy blush. Oh, but that's just...
Found another set of drawings, always nice, and a Foxy head, which we think could be authentic. Then again, it might just be another crappy cosplay.
At this point, I don't think this theory could be any more well supported if I tried. Keep in mind, Scott said that he had vague ideas up to FNAF 5 by the time he was working on 2, so the idea that 4's twist was planned by the time he made 3 isn't entirely out of the question.
About Five Nights at Freddy's 2, how did you get the idea for, changing the mechanics up a little bit? So the masks and the vents, watching the puppet.
There wasn't a really in-depth planning phase. For like the overall feel of the games, like a lot of these were, I just kind of knew what they were supposed to be, or just kind of felt the way that the series should progress. Like I knew that part 2 should be chaotic. Part 2 should be, a lot more chaotic than the first one. It should be just crazy. It should be overwhelming panic. And then I also knew, even at that time, before as I was working on part 2, I knew that 3 should be a very personal experience. It should be the opposite of what 2 was. Part 3 should be kind of one-on-one, and I knew that part 4 should be kind of unique as far as setting and things like that. And I knew that part 5 should be kind of high tech, and I even kind of already had color schemes picked out. Like I knew that part 5 should kind of be purples and blues. I knew that 3 should be kind of green, and I knew that 2 should be kind of 2 should feel kind of industrial, which I think that it does. But outside of that, I'm not really sure. And maybe there was more to it at the time, but it all happened so fast.
I feel like too many people see Scott's theoretical writing skill level as a binary. He's either a mastermind who planned it all from the beginning, or a talentless hack who just made shit up as he went. In reality, he's a decent writer who just has a habit of second-guessing himself and listening too much to fans, letting criticism dictate the direction of the series.
So, the good ending, it was very...
I completely forgot about Over the Top.
Sad. It seemed like it was like the end of the franchise. Was this meant to be the final game?
I think when I was making that game, in my mind, that was the end of a trilogy. I think in my mind, the story was going to be 3 games. And in all honesty, I think Five Nights at Freddy's 3 was where I kind of started letting myself be driven a little bit more by criticisms of the game than maybe I had before. Before, everybody was just really, really excited, happy to have all this stuff. But whenever 3 came out, I really was starting to pay attention to criticism. For instance, even though I may have, in some, alternate life, may have left the series alone at 3, people were not happy with the jump scare, and it's kind of as simple as that. People weren't happy with the jump scare of Springtrap, and that really bothered me. And so then that kind of, in my mind, that wouldn't let the series rest in a way, because I wanted to make another entry that was really, really scary again. And I think I accomplished that with Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Really focusing on really cool, really quick, unexpected jump scares that would kind of make you jerk. So honestly, the series kind of was nudged forward by me wanting to improve upon the last entry.
Okay, awesome. That's interesting.
If my theory about the box is correct, it also has some implications for other things too. Namely, I think I know what Nightmare is. It's Dave. It's Dave's ghost. Whether literally or metaphorically, I'm unsure, though his unique properties and similarity to Golden Freddy makes me think this is literally Dave's ghost attacking Mike in his sleep. I know the common consensus was that Nightmare is just death itself coming to take Dave, but we aren't playing as Dave. Here's why I think Nightmare isn't death coming for Dave, but rather Dave himself. For one, Fredbear recolor. I think the connection between Dave and Fredbear is apparent.
Was that the bite of 87?
Also, he's specifically black, which is the color of Dave's shirt. I know, weakling, but if it was good enough evidence for Dave possessing the puppet, it's good enough for this too, okay? Nightmare is also transparent, making him look like a ghost. He only shows up after you see the Night 6 cutscene, where Dave dies. His transparent appearance also has a side effect. Some of his renders make it look like he's missing the top half of his head. Kinda like Dave! Also, his endoskeleton skull is visible, just floating in there. Yeah, that's just the endo head. You can see it easier if you brighten the image, you can see the eye sockets. But it looks so much like a brain that most people think it's supposed to be a brain, which would be another pretty clear Dave parallel. The thing that finally convinced me that Nightmare is just Dave, though, is this. You know how a lot of people thought that Dave possesses the puppet due to design similarities? How they both have tear stains running down their faces and have black and white stripes? You know what replaces Nightmare in Halloween Edition? I think I might very well be the first person to realize this, so allow me to say, good joke, Scott, well played. This isn't even the only time Scott draws a parallel between the puppet and black bears, because Lefty also exists. I also want to note that the game files refer to Night 7, the night where Nightmare is introduced, as Shadow Freddy. So if Nightmare is Dave, does that mean that Shadow Freddy is always Dave? Is Shadow Freddy just Dave's ghost manifesting itself outside the Golden Freddy suit that he normally shares with Cassidy? I'm not entirely confident in this assertion, but that could provide a pretty convenient explanation for Shadow Freddy, why he looks like Golden Freddy, and why he behaves the way he does. In FNAF 2, he manifests in parts and service, and just stares at you. Unlike who crashes your game, Shadow Freddy just doesn't. It's a common misconception that he crashes your game too, but no. In FNAF 3, he leads the animatronics to Afton so their souls can be unbound from their suits. And outside of that, he only shows up in the office as a harmless Easter egg. I'm a firm you play as Mike in FNAF 3 believer, so if Shadow Freddy is Dave, him occasionally appearing by Mike's side is kinda sweet. He's not hostile anymore like Nightmare was. He can see Mike trying to free him, so he isn't attacking him. I also have some thoughts about FNAF World, namely that it's Dave's afterlife in a way. You play as Dave. This seems implied by the clock route, where you have to interact with 8-bit Fredbear, who instructs you to find the clocks and set the hints for Mike to follow in FNAF 3 to enact Happiest Day. As an aside, is the reason for the clocks just to be another jab at Dream Theory? Like, why else would they be clocks? The minigames in FNAF 3 aren't clock-themed at all. Now, to clarify, the flip side is not the place with the scan lines and the neon trees and the old man consequences. Those are called the subtunnels, or the world between worlds. The flip side is FNAF, the actual games. So when Fredbear says that something terrible happened on the flip side, he means Dave getting his head cracked like a walnut and dying. The game even opens with a pair of yellow eyes reiterating the ending of FNAF 4, and the clock route ending features those same eyes telling you that the pieces are in place and that you can rest now. Who do we know in this series who helps save the souls of dead kids, who seems to mess with the code of games to modify them? The puppet. I think the yellow eyes are Charlie. The light yellow text throughout FNAF World and FNAF 4's ending, the 8-bit Fredbear, it's Charlie. It's Charlie helping Dave find rest until his soul can be freed. Now, no theory is perfect, so let's talk about a few things. Namely this thing. I have no idea what this is. I don't really have a satisfying explanation for what Plushtrap is, but like, does anyone? Seriously, has anyone ever managed to figure out what this little freak is? My best guess is that he's a real animatronic that Mike uses to train his reflexes, and if he does well, he rewards himself by taking his sleeping pills 2 hours later than usual. I don't know. Speaking of little freaks... Why is this thing canon? If you're confused, Scott specified that the content in the Halloween update isn't canon, except Nightmare DB. He's so canon, his minigame was even added to the base game. I don't really know how this fits into anything, but I have a guess. If I had to guess, I'd say the implication is that Balloon Boy is the only animatronic from FNAF 2 that traumatized Mike sufficiently enough to show up in his nightmares, as a joke about how much the fandom hates BB. I think this was just a funny haha joke from Scott. This is made even funnier when you remember that Mike only spent a single night at that location. There is also the infamous Toy Chica beak thing, but I don't really see how that ties into the box regardless. Again, I think that might have just been to let us know that the designs that'd end up being the toys already exist by 1983. If you have a better guess, please let me know in the comments, or hell, use my theory as a springboard for your own theory. If I'm right, we gotta rewrite the timeline anyway. The nights in FNAF 4 take place after FNAF 1 and before FNAF 3. Chop chop, get to making timeline graphics with this new info. Regardless of these details, I genuinely think my answer is correct. It's the single most narratively satisfying explanation I have seen for what was in the box. Which brings me on to an important question. How did it take this long? How come no one, not a single person, thought about this? I bet someone is watching this thinking, it was that simple? And yeah, that's how I felt when I realized it too. I was pacing up and down my living room when the answer hit me out of nowhere, like divine inspiration. And all it took was to look at FNAF 4 as a narrative, which is what it is. So why didn't anybody? Like I said, there are too many people who assume Scott changes the law whenever someone figures it out to keep us wrong, because they just have no faith in Scott as a writer. Okay, real talk, seeing this tweet be posted shortly after I had this realization about the box was fucking hilarious. Like, you really used the worst possible example that fully proves that you are, in fact, illiterate, huh? Amazing. I see this type of thinking way too often about mysteries in games. There's a lot of this in Deltarune too, people insisting that the dumbest possible twist must be correct because it'd be the most unexpected outcome, leaving out the part that it'd also be the least satisfying outcome too. If you're a Deltarune fan, you know what I'm talking about. Too many people look at FNAF 4 not as a narrative, but as a malicious trick, and at Scott not as a storyteller, but as an asshole whose only goal is to make sure that you are wrong. But no. Genuinely, this was a good twist with narrative setup that everyone happened to miss because they didn't give Scott enough credit as a writer. So for that, I'm sorry, Scott. I'm sorry this response is so late. I'm sorry that no one gave you enough credit to trust that you wouldn't stoop to it was just a dream
I don't
twist.
like it whenever people do this.
Granted, you did say
It's
that we're
always very
playing as a
scary.
child in the Steam page, and I mean we kind of are, but still kind of a dick move.
Yeah, I'm just blessed. I'm just really blessed. This isn't so much a thank you as just I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to just be surrounded by just such an incredibly talented community.
Yeah.
It's just been an amazing experience. It really has been.
Yeah, and for many years to come, by the way, Scott, like, we'll always be supportive with the community and you, always.
Well, I'm going to try not to let you guys down, but I hope, you know, I mean, I don't always get these things just right, but I hope everybody in the community believes at least that, you know, just like what I said, you know, how I've been trying to write this script. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean the movie's going to be perfect, and it doesn't mean that these next few games are going to be perfect, but I hope everybody at least believes that my number one goal is to make sure that I don't let anybody out there down. You know, I know that a lot of people enjoy these characters and enjoy these games, and that means the world to me. I'm just going
I really don't think it's a good idea to not put down Signy turn 1 against
just making sure that I
a
do
stall
right by
deck like
everybody.
Yuki. You could have avoided some damage.
Words cannot express
Letting a
how
stun deck
insane it
win
is that no one
faster
realized
against
that
you
the
is
solution to
not
the puzzle
ideal.
was hidden in the background sounds in a game about listening to quiet audio cues. The entire gameplay loop of 4 is listening. How did no one get this? Seriously though, can we appreciate this? Scott actually crafted a really good twist, and everyone missed it because they assumed he was going for low-hanging fruit when the solution was integrated into the gameplay loop of the game perfectly. I also just want to point out that MatBat was right on the cusp of figuring it all out, and didn't. Multiple times. Real talk, you have no idea how frustrating it is to watch him almost realize the truth twice, only to get distracted by wrong theories both times. Just watch these clips with me and suffer.
So scientifically speaking, there is no single way the main character of FNAF 4 can be the Bite of 87 victim, like Scott seems to have indicated. Sure, the game could be about another kid, I guess, but that would be lame. No, this game is meant to be about the victim of the Bite of 87, the poor kid who wasn't just attacked at the restaurant, but continues to be tortured through nightmarish visions, dreams, coma-induced hallucinations, whatever.
Aggravating.
Because it is one of the final biggest questions of the franchise. The security guards, what role do they play in all of this, right? Because, you know, we're very familiar at this point with the names of Mike Schmidt and Jeremy Fitzgerald and Fritz Smith, thank you. Fritz Smith, the nameless person from FNAF 3. Yeah. You know, and this is a theory that that crossed my head at one point, but I never really revisited or got back to. Is there a possibility that the brother from FNAF 4 could be all of those characters? And is there some likelihood that one of the characters that we're seeing in FNAF 4, I would assume it would have to be the brother, is it possible that that is the same guy across all those games?
Infuriating. Again, I love you, MatPat. I wouldn't be here writing this without you, but man, that's painful. In conclusion, I think I've made a compelling case for why the box contains Mike's Foxy mask. At this point, I'm absolutely certain that my theory is right. But still, feel free to come to your own conclusions too. Use my theory as a starting point, or hell, respond with a counter theory of your own. If you can debunk my theory, I'd be genuinely amazed. At any rate, I will rest happily knowing that I've, most likely, solved this decade-long mystery. And hey, now I can finally move on to figuring out where Sis location goes in the timeline. Oh joy. Well, if I ever manage to do that, I'll make a video about that too. But for now, I think I've talked enough. Thank you for your time, hope you enjoyed the theory, and I'll see you whenever. Bye!
As I walk through the ashes of what I used to call my humble abode, in what used to be a vibrant home to us ugly, now remains a sad melody, by the voices crying for help. Lingers in my head like a haunting lullaby of wild past, these echoes of dreams, coaching my heart with grief. Bitter tragedy I can't escape from, plagues me like a deja vu, and day by day I have to live through, knowing that I lost you. It's an infinite cycle of sorrow, wishing you back in my arms. In this empty and ruined backyard, you used to run around peacefully. I remember so well, little laughter swirled through the lush scenery. Why did it become like this? You do not deserve the pain you have gone into. The fire that burns my sorrow alive fuels the spark inside. It infuriates my burning anger. Cast the flames into my hands. It may not bring back the hand of time, something I cannot do. But if this equals your vindication for you, I will fire this fire inside set blaze running wild. Through the sky, everything drifted me united. Might as well ravage through. If this is what it takes to avenge you, let it burn. Amore.
Hmm. Into the farthest reaches of depth, flashes of distant memories.
Looking back, the wishes we had slowly turn into huge mistakes.
These withered flowers fade like ice. They seek the warmth of burning flesh. Even this mighty sword is tarnished with rust, breathing down its atmosphere.
Just wander, drifting relentlessly out of sight.
Unraveling life's intricate path, tragic destiny waiting, peaceful breeze and sweet melodies now remain a fragment in time. When thunderous cracks call out in pain, just begging for the rain. Forgotten voices join, soft delicate pleas, as they're piercing into the soul. Far, far away into madness. Everything has no eternity.
Abandon the pain, letting go for the better, patiently waiting to end. These tainted fingertips clasping tight, praying for a conclusion, yet brace myself forwards to call.
For this tragedy knows no end. Embracing the mistakes, these hands brought forth as I wait here for you. Only your hands alone, the power to mend, let this horror come to an end. I wanna fly away from here.
Soaring so high out of boundaries, I plead and I hope you'll accept this last farewell. I don't need pity, just let me go. As I say goodbye, don't hesitate, say goodbye.
Memento Mori.
I've just pretended. Can't trust anything, can't trust nobody else. I've dyed this world gray. That's the price I pay for what I've done to you. The colorless skyways down on me. The foggy lights, shadows are calling. Left all alone. Oh, where should I go now? I'm just staring straight at the clouds. I plead and cry, call your name like falling thunder. Close my eyes and hear your voice. Can I hear just remember you with a sweet memory? I won't say forgive me, words can't describe my heart. I'm wishing upon a star. Take me far away to where she's waiting for me.
They finally have a spell on their grave.
So I pretended before I broke, before I hurt myself. I thought feel for days, even though I was so scared and trembling. Nonetheless, cries way down on me. The foggy lights, shadows are fading. Even our memories were fantasy. The moon has disappeared once again. I sing along, call your name like falling thunder. Close my eyes and hear your voice when you hear all alone other places to go. I won't say, stay with me, words can't describe my heart. I'll just dream of being with you. Take me to the place where my wishes will come true.
Now I wipe away my tears and sorrow. I don't know all that can go. I say a breath that I couldn't say goodbye without warm embrace.
But I wish upon a star that I'll call your name till I can see you again.
Memento Mori.
Alright.
Tracing the skies I
As my
hold
old feet,
with
the
the gentlest touch of doubt and fear, counting my every ache I wait, wondering if
knock it out at night and day. Maybe we'll find a way to leave this place and leave behind the person I am.
Even the chains I swore I had thrown away for good this time. Why am I reaching for them now? How do I keep these wings where they belong? If you could help me bind them down, I swear
I wouldn't care if it's all a lie.
falling into the dark, where you are is where I'll head. Foolishness often hides there behind a mask of borrowed pride. Another tear, another fear, float in the sand and quietly disappear. Longing for you to forgive me somehow. I keep on piling sin after sin, just like a flower when all its petals age and lose their hue. I know the sorrow to fade, like it was never there right from the start. So won't you take this bond and hold it tight, and drive it through my heart like a sword. Until I fade away. Don't let me leave your gaze. Tracing the scars I hold with the gentlest touch of doubt and fear, counting my every ache I wait, wondering if after another night and day, maybe you'll find a way to leave this place and leave behind the person I am. Falling into the dark,
Just like a flower when all its petals age to hue, to hue.